If I was trying to market my SaaS business in 2025, here's some of the key things that I would do that would set me apart from my competition. Because after 20 plus years of working for some of the world's largest brands like Lenovo, Canon, British Telecom, as well as VC-backed companies and over 100 startups in the UK and Europe, I've learned a thing or two about marketing. So in this video, I'm going to break down 3 of the most popular marketing strategies that I see are being deployed by some really interesting companies in the space today. These are the areas that I would focus on if it was my business, but these are also the areas that I help my clients crack. Starting with the first, using influencer marketing. Using influencers isn't new. We've seen actors pushing perfume or NBA players trying to flog shoes. So what is influencer marketing, and when is it more popular now if celebrity endorsements has always been around? And the answer is that micro-influencers is a new concept. So the rise of influencers on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, with followers ranging from 10,000 to 500,000, opens up entirely new forms of inventory to help a business advertise and promote its offer to that relevant niche audience. So it's the niching, the hyper-specificity, as well as the cost efficiency with deploying campaigns with these micro-influencers, these minor celebrities, which is where things have shifted in terms of what has been enabled through the fragmentation in digital marketing. This takes form in lots of different ways. YouTubers who are doing sponsorships mid-video, co-creating content, be it webinars or case studies with someone who's influential, or what a company like Clay did, which is leveraged an ecosystem of partners to pollinate and disseminate information about their product all over LinkedIn. And they did it in such large volume, they've become a really prominent player that a new job title has actually been created called the growth engineer as a result of the success of this single SaaS business. This works for a few different reasons. Obviously, first of all, you're leveraging someone else's audience, which means that you're borrowing trust. And this is very easy. You could just start with a single post with a creator rather than committing to one large media buy, which is how things used to be traditionally. The thing is with creators or influencers, when you're co-creating content with them, it gives you an opportunity to create something unique. But also, it means that what you're creating doesn't necessarily mean to be transactional. It doesn't need to come off as a sales pitch. It can come off as more educational and actually gets the point across more effectively, driving more efficiency in your cost per acquisition efforts. Now, how you'd actually start doing this is relatively simple. So the first option is you go to a network like Passion Fruit or Fluencer and you shop around for creators in your niche and you make them an offer to collaborate on a post. Option 2 is if you have a specific creator in mind and they're not available in one of these networks, you reach out to them directly. And the third option, the most robust, is that you create a program. So some B2B SaaS businesses, they'll offer 20% of the entire revenue from someone who's generated through a unique promo code for an entire year of subscription. So they have a vested interest commercially to promote the product, and for you as a SaaS business, there's no upfront costs. So you're very de-risked compared to if you were to run paid ads, where you can pay Google or Meta or LinkedIn ads and not necessarily see a return. So it's not as efficient. So this is almost like a pay per performance model, so it de-risks you. And for the creator, they usually have very little to lose because they're promoting it organically through email marketing, through one of their social channels. Now, what's worth noting here is when you're approaching a creator like this, that you're not just trying to push your product in a transactional way. The key is to figure out how to align your product with that audience. Creators really care about their audiences. They need to make sure that they're not diluting the perceived value of their personal brand in front of their audience by flogging something they don't believe in or don't trust. So your best bet is to actually get the creator to use your tool and actually endorse it. You're much more likely to get a positive result if they genuinely appreciate and like your tool rather than just doing it because you're paying them to do it. Clay didn't just create this revenue platform. They enabled the creators and supported them in lots of different ways. They gave them tools, resources, templates, premium support. So there's a lot more that's required to actually get this kind of program off the ground that meets the eye. There isn't really such a thing as free marketing. Companies are always trying to be creative by cutting corners. They might get a quick win, but that's not a sustainable strategy to scale your business properly. Let's now talk about option 2, which has grown in popularity over the last 3 or 4 years in particular. And this is demand generation strategy. In a nutshell, demand gen is about producing great quality content and distributing it to your target audience where they engage. For example, if you're selling to a high annual contract value enterprise segment, then they're very likely living on LinkedIn. You produce great content and distribute to make sure it reaches them on LinkedIn. They consume the content, building a relationship with you and your brand, and then you enter into the consideration set when they're evaluating a vendor to solve a problem like the one that your software solves. Demand gen is really contrasted to lead generation, but lead generation is actually relatively inefficient. So data from Hockey Stack shows that leads generated from demand generation efforts convert at 4 times the rate of leads that have been generated from lead lead gen efforts. Demand gen also has a 26% higher win rate and a 36% shorter sales cycle. By offering high value quality content, people are building a relationship with you and your brand. You're helping them solve meaningful problems and educating them. You start carving out an area in their mind, this invisible landscape mentally, where people have a wardrobe full of brands, where you are slowly inching your way up to top spot for the specific category that you operate in. So this works really well because you're building meaningful relationships rather than just trying to take people through an assembly line. And even though that used to work maybe 10, 15 years ago, it is no longer effective. The key in the mindset shift is that you're shifting from pitching to solving meaningful problems. And that makes all the difference in how you build a meaningful relationship. And in the end, instead of having a long, large list of leads that makes you feel very good but is very inefficient, you're moving to far fewer but higher quality engaged prospects. And if you do it right, you can have a result like Cognism, who saw an increase of 20% in the number of qualified opportunities compared to before when they were just doing lead gen. So what exactly did Cognism do when we say demand gen? So the first thing they did is they ungated high value assets. So they gave high quality value for free. The second is that they invested in account-based marketing. They targeted a specific set of accounts with personalized messaging focused on those specific companies with creative tied to those companies. So for example, if they were targeting Coca-Cola, when Coca-Cola went on LinkedIn, they'd see an ad that says Cognism plus Coca-Cola generates Coca-Cola making more money. Someone at Coca-Cola would see the ad, be interested because it's like, oh, I see my logo in the ad, click it, go to Cognism and find out more, engage with a high quality content, and then reach out to them if they were interested in the solution. Cognism took a big risk here where they also shifted to dark social. So creating content that's highly shareable in communities like Slack and WhatsApp without consideration for how they're going to measure it. Now, measurement is really important because you need to report back to leadership to communicate how are your efforts paying off. So this is a high risk strategy that actually paid off quite well. Now, it's not to say that all of this was free. They did spend a lot of money on paid advertising, and particularly LinkedIn. What they did really well is that they seamlessly integrated sales with the marketing effort to make sure that marketing is aligned with sales in targeting the key accounts they wanted to acquire as customers. Unsurprisingly, they also developed strategic partnerships, partnering with other brands as well as influencers to promote and build brand awareness with the respective audiences they sell the solution to, which is salespeople and marketers. And lastly, they invested in personalized email nurturing. This is old school. A lot of companies that offer marketing automation, which is ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, etc., all have this type of functionality. The key is using AI to hyper-personalize it to make it relevant for each prospect and each company that you're nurturing. A lot of the pipeline I've generated, which is in the millions and tens of millions over the years, has definitely amounted to one sentence, demand gen effort. The key is to produce as much high quality content as possible and promote it as far as I can to the end of the internet, which is really, really far. Now, the third option that I see some really great SaaS businesses crack is personal brand or founder brand. People like Kyle from Copy AI, who you may have heard of them because they sponsored the Super Bowl, has said to me that almost 30% of their pipeline generated comes from his profile, where he has 150,000 followers. And also see people like Rand Fishkin with more than 250,000, who is promoting his software Spark Turo and is quite prolific on LinkedIn. There's also Adam Robinson from RB2B, who's really up there with investing large amounts of money, so between 25 to 50K a month, studio level production, kind of like a Gary Vee style, and he's become very popular as well. So the question is, why does this work? And there's a couple of reasons. First, algorithmically. So if we're going to look at LinkedIn specifically, personal profiles have 5 times the reach that company pages do. So even though in a company page you can post up to twice a day, in a personal profile you're really limited to about once a day, so 7 times a week, you're still going to get much more reach. That emotional connection of seeing a face, that person is liable for what they say, there's a vulnerability and risk by communicating publicly, ends up building a more meaningful relationship. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. Personal brand isn't what people think it is. A lot of people think it's about having a cool photo and a nice, cool background. Really, it's about creating high value, interesting content that serves your audience. And what these personal brands do really well is they're always focused on creating interesting, engaging content that is quite specialized. And they do it at relatively high volume and high intensity. It's not just another part of their marketing strategy. It's a core pillar that they've committed to. And in a nutshell, that's personal branding, which is a third option for how you can grow and scale your marketing that's growing in its popularity from what I can see across successful SaaS businesses today. Throughout this video, I've just covered 3 of the most popular options. There's lots of ways to skin a cat, but hopefully those will prove valuable to you. There's a lot about marketing strategy that I haven't covered, which I will do in future videos. But if you really want to crack SaaS marketing, there's a whole lot more that you need to know, including nailing your marketing strategy. And that's why in my next video, I go into what I've learned about helping SaaS businesses like Peakon, Kai, and Seed Legals scale. So you can pretty much download all of of my knowledge and experience, as well as sweat and tears, so you don't have to make the same mistakes I did to scale your business. I'll see you over there.